Yes, good morning, Akbar. Ayush Burman, good morning. Ritesh, good morning. Kumar Gaurav, good morning. Okay, wait for some time being. Okay, students, let people to join, those who want to join. Then I will start the class. Wait for some time being. Okay, today we will start with special cases. Okay, special cases of what? Special cases of demand and supply. Means there will be some special, extraordinary things will be happening for which the demand and supply will change. Okay, first point, change in demand when supply is perfectly elastic. Change in supply when demand is perfectly elastic. Change in demand when supply is perfectly inelastic. Change in supply when demand is perfectly inelastic. Okay, so now we will see at the first instance what will happen. Change in demand when supply is perfectly elastic. When supply is perfectly elastic, then change in demand does not affect the equilibrium price of the commodity. Okay, when supply is perfectly elastic, we know perfect elastic means it's a constant case which is occurring. Okay, so at that time, demand does not affect the what? Demand does not affect the equilibrium price of the good. Okay, it only Kushi, good morning. It only changes the equilibrium quantity, means only the quantity changes. The price remain unaltered. It remains same as it is. Okay, so original equilibrium is determined at point E. Okay, so we can see here price is same. When supply is perfectly elastic at that case, price is same, only the quantity demand changes. So where this is equal, this price curve, which is a horizontal line, which is equal to the supply curve, and when demand curve cuts, this supply curve, which is at point E, that is the equilibrium point where demand and supply curve intersect each other, and equilibrium quantity is OQ. Okay, now original equilibrium is determined, Sakti, good morning. Okay, original equilibrium is determined at point E where the original demand curve DD and the perfectly elastic supply curve SS intersect each other. OQ is the equilibrium quantity and OP is the equilibrium price. Now we will see the changes. There is increase in demand. When demand increases, the demand curve shifts to the right from DD to D1, D1 shifts to the right from DD to D1, D1. Okay, supply curve SS is a horizontal straight line parallel to the x-axis. Supply curve SS is horizontal to the x line parallel to the x-axis. Due to increase in demand for the product, the new equilibrium is established at E1. Equilibrium quantity rises from OQ to OQ1, but equilibrium price remains same at OP. Okay, as supply is perfectly elastic. Okay, so this is the case when supply curve is perfectly elastic. Now we will see when there will be decrease in demand and supply curve is perfectly elastic. So since supply curve is perfectly elastic, the price curve, the supply curve, which will be equal to the price parallel to the x-axis, okay, horizontal line. Indra, good morning. Okay, now Our DD is my original demand curve which cuts at E with supply curve, and OQ is the equilibrium quantity and OP is the equilibrium price. Okay, now when demand curve falls from DD to D1, D1 or D2, D2, with the fall in demand curve, my quantity demand also falls from OQ to OQ2, okay, at the same price. So this is the scenario when supply curve is perfectly elastic, okay, and demand curve changes. We are seeing the changes what is occurring here. Now we will see change in supply when demand is perfectly elastic. Now demand curve will be equal to my what? Will be equal to my price curve parallel to the x-axis horizontal line, and supply curve is upward rising. My original supply curve is SS. When supply curve increases from SS to S1, S1, which is increase in supply, we can see the quantity supplied also increases from OQ to OQ1, okay, with the increase in supply curve. Similarly, decrease in supply will also lead to what? Will also lead to from SS to S to S2, and quantity supplied also falls from OQ to OQ2. So when demand curve is elastic, we have seen the changes what is occurring. Now, change in demand when supply is perfectly inelastic. Manjeet, good morning. Change in demand when supply is perfectly inelastic. Perfectly inelastic means what? The demand curve will be, or the supply curve. Now, supply curve. Here, supply curve is told perfectly inelastic means what? The supply curve will be vertical line parallel to the y-axis. Means output will not change, price may change. Means, or alternatively, we can tell that whatever may be the price, my output will be same as it is. Okay, when demand curve is DD, okay, and supply curve is perfectly inelastic, has been told, so it will parallel to the y-axis, which is a vertical line. Okay, so DT curve cuts SS curve at point E. E is the equilibrium point. At this E point, equilibrium price is OP, and Abhishek Valmiki, good morning. At this E point, equilibrium price is OP and equilibrium quantity is OQ. Now, there is increase in demand. Means demand curve increased from DD to D1, D1, which leads to what? Now come with that concept. Supply is constant, but demand has increased. So it's a case of excess demand. And when there is excess demand, what I have told you yesterday, the buyers compete with each other and they itself forces the price to go up. So here is the case. For this situation, the price goes up from OP to OP1 and the quantity demanded remains as it is. Okay, now next case, decrease in demand. Same case, DD is my original demand curve, but demand curve has decreased, means it has fallen down from DD to D2, D2. Now at this situation, supply is constant, we know, but demand has fallen. So it's a case of what? Decrease in demand, or alternatively we can tell it's a case of what? Excess supply. Means supply is 100, for example 100, but demand has fallen from 100 to 80. So at this situation, which one is higher? Supply or demand? Supply is higher, excess supply. So this excess supply leads to what? Competition among the sellers, and it leads to fall in the price from OP to OP2 at the original quantity OQ. Okay. Then comes about change in supply when demand is perfectly inelastic. Now demand curve is inelastic, which is parallel to the y-axis demand curve. Now supply curve we know SS. Suddenly there is increase in supply from SS to S1, S1. Now demand is same, supply has increased. It's a case of what? Excess supply. It's a case of excess supply. Okay, and this excess supply leads to what? Competition among the sellers, and that forces the price to fall down from OP to OP1. Forces the price to fall down from OP to OP1. Understood? We will come to the next situation. Decrease in supply. Demand curve is this one. Supply curve is SS. But supply curve now has fallen down or decreased from SS to leftward shift S to S2. When supply falls but demand is as it is, this is a case of what? Excess demand. And this excess demand forces what? Competition among the buyers, and it leads to rise in price from OP to OP2. So these are, Satyam, good morning. So these are some cases of what? Of some special cases when supply and demand both are elastic and inelastic. Here we end up with all the situations. Now we will come to some new theory, new concept. What is it? Simple applications of tools of demand and supply. Okay. Price ceiling, price floor. What are these two things? See, till now we have discussed the determination of equilibrium price through free play without government interference. Till now we have just discussed with market force, isn't it? How market is going on, how market is setting the price, how market is arranging the price, isn't it? Okay. In such a freely functioning market, the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied are equal to each other at the equilibrium price. However, markets are rarely free from foreign government interference. At times, government has to intervene in the process of price determination when the equilibrium price so determined is either too high for the consumers or too low for the producers of the commodity. Now, when market plays the role to set the price, I will discuss one more time. When market plays the role to set the price, what happens? The price is being set by market only. So that price may be too high for consumers, or that price may be too low for producers. So that is not fair. So for that reason only, government started interfering, or government started to follow two types or two policies, new two policies. What are those? Price ceiling, price floor. What is this price ceiling? Government plays an important role in controlling the prices of essential commodities, wheat, sugar, kerosene, etc. When the equilibrium price determined by free play of demand and supply is too high for the poor people, Price ceiling refers to fixing the maximum price of a good at the level lower than the equilibrium price. What is price ceiling? Fixing the maximum price of a good at a level lower than the equilibrium price. Price ceiling or maximum price ceiling refers to the imposition of upper limit and the price of good by the government. We will come to the diagram, it will be clear to you. Demand and supply curve cuts at point E. And OP is what? Is the equilibrium price. Isn't it? Now see, in the given diagram, demand curve DD and SS intersect each other at point E, etc., etc. It's written here, OP is the equilibrium price, OQ is the equilibrium quantity. Okay. Now, suppose the equilibrium price of OP is very high and many poor people are unable to afford the product at this price. OP is equilibrium price, okay, but it is, for example, it is very high for the poor people to bear that good. As a result, government interferes and fixes the maximum price known as price ceiling at OP1. So government sets some price which is reasonable for the buyers also, which is reasonable for the sellers also. Okay, which is less than the equilibrium price of OP, which is less than the equilibrium price of OP. At this controlled price, OP1, the producers are willing to supply only P1A. Producers are willing to supply only P1A quantity of goods or OQ1 quantity of goods, while consumers demand P1B or OQ2 quantity of goods. Now see the situation. Government has reduced the price so that every consumers can able to afford to buy. But there is a case for the suppliers. Suppliers are not ready to supply more goods. They are supplying only OQ1 good. But consumers are demanding OQ2 goods because price has fallen down. Okay, so there is a case of what? Excess demand. Isn't it? More people are wanting, but supplier is not supplying. So there will be what? Shortage of good in the market. And whenever there will be shortage of good in the market, what we do? Black marketing. Yes or no? In cinema hall, when we don't get ticket means ticket is not there. No. The sellers only just keep back, hold back the tickets. And at last, when there is high amount of demand, then what happens? The ticket counter or from the ticket, those who sell the ticket, they sell the good tickets at a very high price. So this is the problem in this case, black marketing case, under price ceiling. Now rationing system comes. To meet the excess demand, government may also enforce the rationing system. Now this excess demand, there is a case of excess demand. Now the excess demand government sees and government decides to do what? To provide the goods at a very lower price or rationing systems starts. Rationing is a technique adopted by the government to sell a minimum quota of essential goods at a price less than equilibrium price to supply goods to the poor community at a cheaper price. Under the system, goods are being supplied by ration shops, etc. by having a ration card. Difficulty in obtaining goods from the ration shops. Now, problem is there. Consumers have to stand in long queues to buy goods from ration shops. Sometimes commodities are not available in the ration shops or goods are of inferior quality, very bad quality. So ration shop also has some problem. Okay, government is helping, but there is problem going on. Next come price floor or minimum support price. What is this one? Government also intervenes in the process of price determination through price floor. Price floor refers to the minimum price which is set or fixed by the government, which the producers must be paid for their produce. So now the government started thinking for the producer also. Okay, how the government started thinking about the producer? That some price, minimum price should be paid to the producers to meet their produce, because they are also producing the good. They also bear some cost. So minimum price the producers must get. Now who will set? Okay, now see. Most well-known example of imposition of price floor in agricultural price support programs and minimum wage legislation. Indian government maintains a variety of price support programs for various agricultural products like wheat, sugarcane, etc. And the floor is normally set at a level higher than the market determined price for these goods. Now see the diagram. Now demand curve, supply curve intersects at point E. OP is what? Is my equilibrium price. Now this OP, equilibrium price, is very low for the producers. The producer don't want to sell, supply any amount of good at this time because it's a very less price. Now government started thinking about the producers. How? Suppose to protect the producer's interest and to provide incentive for further production, government declares OP1 as the minimum price, which is more than the equilibrium price of OP. So government declares that this price should be paid to the producer, which is more than the equilibrium price. At this support price OP1, the producers are willing to supply P1B or OQ2. Now see, at this higher price, the suppliers are ready to do what? Supply more, OQ2. But since the price has gone up, the consumers are not ready to demand or purchase good. So they only demanding OQ1 amount of good. This creates a situation of surplus in the market. More supply, less demand. There in the market, what exists? Surplus or stock started going over and over, increasing day by day. Okay, now how much stock? This stock, AB amount is the stock, which is being increasing in the market time to time. The excess supply may be purchased by the government either to increase its buffer stock or for export. Okay, now implications of price floor or minimum price ceiling. Price floor is normally set at a level higher than the equilibrium price. This leads to excess supply. We have just seen. Since the price has risen from equilibrium price, suppliers are ready to supply more amount of goods. Since producers are not able to sell all they want to sell, they illegally sell the goods or services below the minimum price. Now see what the case going on. Suppliers were willing to sell, but no consumers are there in the market to purchase that good. So what the sellers started doing? They started selling the goods illegally lower than this price, lower than this P1 price, minimum price. Okay. Buffer stock acts as a tool of price floor. Buffer stock is an important tool in the hands of government to ensure price floor. When market price is lower than what the government feels should be given to the farmers or producers, it purchases the commodity at higher price from the farmers or producers so as to maintain stock of the good with itself to be released in case of shortage of the commodity in future. So stock is not at all bad because it may be used in the future. So this is all about in this chapter. Wait for some time being. Let me take the attendance of today, those who are present. Okay. Then you may leave. Wait for some time being, students. Today is 16th, no? Okay, thank you everyone. Those who are present here. Have a nice day, everyone. Thank you everyone.